The biggest mistake men make is thinking women are strong in the same way men are. They're not. And if you don't understand her silent weaknesses, you'll either chase her, resent her, or lose her. This isn't manipulation, it's awareness. Because once you see what's really behind her words, her moods, her silence, you stop reacting and start leading. Stay until the end, because the last weakness is the one she'll never admit, but always test you for. Deep resonance. The first profound energetic dynamic that is often tragically mislabeled or misunderstood by men is the immense capacity for deep emotional resonance that frequently characterizes the feminine energetic principle. This is not, as it is so often crudely dismissed, mere emotionality or moodiness. It is rather a profound attunement, a heightened sensitivity to the subtle currents of feeling that flow between beings and within the environment itself. A capacity akin to a finely tuned instrument that can register the most delicate shifts in the emotional atmosphere. This deep resonance allows for an extraordinary depth of empathy, an intuitive understanding of unspoken needs, and a powerful ability to connect with others at the heart level, fostering bonds of profound intimacy and compassion. However, when a man encounters this profound energetic sensitivity without the ballast of his own emotional stability, without a grounded presence that can hold space for this flow, without being overwhelmed or reactive, this deep resonance can appear to him as volatility or unpredictability. If his own inner waters are turbulent, if he lacks the capacity for centered self-regulation, he may project his own discomfort onto her experience, labeling her depth of feeling as a weakness, simply because he is unequipped to meet it with conscious strength. The hard truth here is that the perceived problem arises not from her capacity to feel deeply, but from a man's potential inability to provide a calm, steady, energetic anchor. When a man can stand firm in his own centered presence, offering a safe harbor of unwavering calm and understanding, this deep emotional resonance in a woman becomes not a source of instability, but an incredible source of connection, intuition, and profound relational depth. He must learn to be the mountain, still and unshakable, allowing the river of her feeling to flow without needing to dam it, redirect it, or become drowned in it. The weakness is revealed when a man reacts with impatience, dismissal, or tries to fix what is simply a natural expression of her energetic being, instead of meeting it with profound listening and steadfast, quiet support. True strength in a man is shown by his capacity to honor this depth, to create a safe space for its expression, and to learn from the wisdom it often carries, rather than seeking to suppress or control it due to his own discomfort or lack of emotional maturity. This dynamic, when understood and navigated with mutual respect, transforms a potential point of friction into a profound source of mutual growth and extraordinary intimacy. Mirrored worth. A second dynamic, often misinterpreted as a weakness, is the profound feminine energetic tendency to seek and deeply value genuine acknowledgement, not as a superficial craving for validation, but as a mirroring of her intrinsic worth and a confirmation of the energetic connection. This is not about a lack of inherent self-esteem, but rather a relational way of being where self-perception is often deeply intertwined with the quality of her connections and the reflections she receives from those she holds dear. The feminine principle often thrives in an environment of authentic appreciation, where her contributions, her essence, her very being are seen, honored, and cherished. When a man offers genuine, heartfelt recognition of her inner qualities, her efforts, her beauty, both inner and outer, it is like sunshine and water to a flower, allowing her to blossom more fully, to radiate her unique light more brightly. However, if a man withholds genuine appreciation, if he is emotionally unavailable, consistently critical, or offers only superficial flattery, devoid of true seeing, this innate relational need for positive mirroring can appear as neediness or insecurity. The hard truth is that the perceived weakness here often stems from a man's emotional stinginess, his lack of awareness of the power of his focused, authentic appreciation, or perhaps his own insecurities, which prevent him from generously offering sincere acknowledgement. He may misunderstand her desire for connection and verbal affirmation as a deficit in her, rather than recognizing it as an invitation for him to step more fully into his capacity for heartfelt presence and articulate appreciation. The man who understands this dynamic does not see it as a burden, but as an opportunity to actively nurture the connection, to consciously build a reservoir of positive energy within the relationship. He learns that offering sincere, specific, and consistent acknowledgement is not about giving in to a demand, but about participating in a vital energetic exchange that strengthens the bond and allows her spirit to flourish. The weakness is exposed when a man uses this understanding to manipulate, offering insincere praise to gain advantage, or when he becomes complacent, taking her presence and contributions for granted, failing to actively mirror her value. True masculine strength lies in the capacity to see and affirm the inherent worth in his partner, to reflect her light back to her with generosity and sincerity, thereby co-creating an environment where both individuals feel deeply seen, valued, and empowered. This is not about endless compliments, but about a consistent, energetic stance of deep appreciation and active recognition. Cyclical wisdom. A third area often profoundly misunderstood by the more linear, goal-oriented masculine energetic pattern is the inherently cyclical nature of feminine energy and wisdom, which can sometimes manifest as what appears to be indecisiveness or a less direct path towards a goal. Feminine energy is often deeply attuned to internal rhythms, to intuitive insights, to the ebb and flow of emotional and energetic tides, much like the cycles of the moon or the seasons of the earth. This means that her process of decision-making, of creation, of problem-solving may not always follow a straight, logical A to B trajectory. There might be periods of introspection, of waiting for inner clarity, of sensing into a situation rather than immediately imposing a solution. This cyclical wisdom allows for a more holistic, intuitive, and often more sustainable approach to life, one that honors the unseen dimensions and the deeper currents at play. However, to a man conditioned to value rapid action, immediate results, and a purely rational linear progression, this more spiraling, receptive mode of being can be mistaken for a weakness, perhaps as a lack of focus, an inability to commit, or frustrating inefficiency. The hard truth here is that the weakness lies not in her intrinsic way of processing, but in a man's potential impatience, his lack of reverence for intuitive ways of knowing, or his inability to trust a process that he does not fully logically comprehend or control. He may try to rush her, to impose his own linear solutions, or to dismiss her intuitive insights because they cannot be immediately quantified or rationally explained. The man who learns to honor and respect this cyclical wisdom in a woman discovers a profound source of guidance and a deeper connection to the natural rhythms of life. He learns the value of patience, of allowing space for inner processes to unfold, of trusting that her intuitive insights, though perhaps not immediately transparent to his logical mind, often carry a profound truth and a far-seeing perspective. He understands that true partnership involves harmonizing both the linear and the cyclical, the rational and the intuitive, the active and the receptive. The weakness is highlighted when a man devalues this innate feminine rhythm, when he ridicules her intuition, or when he consistently overrides her pace with his own urgency, thereby stifling a vital source of wisdom within the relationship and within her own being. True masculine strength is demonstrated by his ability to create a supportive space for her cyclical nature, to listen deeply to her intuitive knowing, and to integrate this wisdom into their shared journey, recognizing that the longest way round is sometimes the most direct path to a truly harmonious outcome. Verbal weaving. A fourth dynamic that can be a source of profound misunderstanding and thus mislabeled is the way feminine energy often utilizes verbal expression as a primary means of connection, emotional processing, and the weaving of relational tapestries. For many women, talking through experiences, sharing feelings, exploring ideas in conversation is not merely about conveying information or reaching a solution. It is an integral part of how they build intimacy, process their inner world, and create a sense of shared understanding and belonging. This verbal weaving can be rich, nuanced, and deeply connective, fostering a strong sense of closeness and mutual support. However, for a man who may be more accustomed to using language primarily for instrumental purposes, to solve problems, to convey facts, to assert a position, this more expansive, process-oriented, and emotionally expressive mode of communication can sometimes be perceived as talking too much, as being unfocused, or even as a form of complaint if he is only listening for the problem to be solved rather than understanding the inherent need for connection and expression. The hard truth here is that the perceived weakness often arises from a man's limited understanding of the different functions of communication, or from his own discomfort with sustained emotional intimacy or vulnerability. He may become impatient, tune out, offer premature solutions when what is truly being sought is a listening heart, an empathetic presence, a sense of being truly heard and understood. The man who cultivates the art of deep, patient listening, who understands that for his partner, the journey of the conversation is often as important as the destination, unlocks a profound gateway to her inner world and to a much richer, more intimate connection. He learns to listen not just for the content, but for the underlying feelings, the unspoken needs, the subtle threads of connection being woven. He understands that offering his attentive, non-judgmental presence during these moments of sharing is one of the most powerful ways to build trust and emotional safety. The weakness is brought to the fore when a man constantly interrupts, dismisses her need to talk, minimizes her feelings, or consistently tries to shut down the conversation with quick fixes, thereby making her feel unheard, invalidated, and emotionally isolated. True masculine presence involves the strength to hold space for this verbal weaving, to engage with genuine curiosity and empathy, and to recognize the profound relational value inherent in this mode of connection, even if it differs from his own typical style. It is about honoring her way of being and meeting her there, rather than demanding she conform to his. Heart's echo, a fifth energetic sensitivity, often misunderstood, is the profound capacity of the feminine heart to feel deeply and to register relational nuances with acute awareness, which can sometimes manifest as what might be perceived as taking things personally. Because the feminine principle often thrives on connection, harmony, and emotional safety, a perceived slight, a moment of insensitivity, a breach of trust, or a withdrawal of affection can resonate very deeply within her being, like an echo in a sensitive chamber. This is not necessarily a sign of being overly fragile or easily offended, but rather an indicator of a heart that is open, invested, and deeply attuned to the energetic quality of the relationship. This heart's echo means that words and actions carry significant weight, and dissonance in the relational field can be profoundly felt. However, to a man who may be less attuned to these subtle emotional energies, or who may communicate more bluntly, or who may not fully grasp the impact of his words or moods, her deep reaction to what he considers a minor issue can seem like an overreaction, a weakness in her emotional resilience. The hard truth is that the perceived weakness often lies in a man's lack of awareness of his own energetic impact, his insensitivity to the emotional climate he is co-creating, or his failure to consistently cultivate an atmosphere of trust and emotional safety where her heart feels secure enough to not be constantly on guard. When a woman feels deeply seen, respected, and emotionally safe with a man, her heart is more likely to be resilient, open, and forgiving. But if that foundation of trust is shaky, if she frequently experiences emotional unavailability or insensitivity, then even small disturbances can trigger a more pronounced echo. The man who understands this dynamic takes responsibility for the energy he brings to the relationship. He cultivates mindful communication, practices empathy, and strives to create a consistent environment of emotional security. He learns that repairing relational ruptures promptly and sincerely is crucial, and that validating her feelings, even if he doesn't fully understand them from his own perspective, is key to restoring harmony. The weakness is amplified when a man dismisses her feelings, tells her she is being too sensitive, or refuses to acknowledge his part in creating the emotional disturbance, thereby further wounding her heart and eroding trust. True masculine strength is demonstrated by the courage to look at his own behavior, to communicate with kindness and consideration, and to be a reliable guardian of the emotional safety within the connection, understanding that her open heart, while sensitive, is also the source of profound love and connection when nurtured. Nexus power. A sixth inherent energetic inclination that is sometimes misconstrued is the powerful innate drive within the feminine principle towards connection, community, and the nurturing of relationships, what one might call her nexus power. Feminine energy often finds its deepest fulfillment and expression in the creation and maintenance of strong relational bonds, whether with a partner, family, friends, or the wider community. This drive is not a distraction from more important individualistic pursuits, but rather a fundamental expression of an energy that understands interconnectedness as the very fabric of life. It is a power that weaves together disparate elements, fosters cooperation, and creates spaces of belonging and mutual support. However, in a society that often prioritizes individual achievement, competition, and solitary ambition above communal well-being, this profound relational focus can sometimes be viewed by a man, particularly one highly driven by individual goals, as a weakness, perhaps as being overly dependent on others, as lacking sufficient personal ambition, or as being too easily distracted by the needs and dramas of her social circle. The hard truth is that the weakness often perceived here is, in fact, a profound strength that the modern world desperately needs more of. It is a man's potential lack of appreciation for the immense value of relational intelligence, his possible overemphasis on isolated individual success, or his discomfort with the level of emotional engagement that deep connection requires, that leads to this misinterpretation. The man who recognizes and honors this nexus power in a woman gains access to a richer, more supportive, and more meaningful life. He understands that her capacity to build and nurture connections is not a diversion, but a vital contribution that can enrich his own life, broaden his perspectives, and create a stronger foundation for their shared journey. He learns to support her in cultivating these bonds, recognizing that her well-being is often deeply nourished by the health of her relational network. The weakness becomes apparent when a man tries to isolate her from her connections, when he devalues her relational needs, or when he sees her investment in others as a threat to his own importance, thereby attempting to diminish a core aspect of her being and a significant source of her strength and joy. True masculine partnership involves celebrating and supporting this nexus power, participating in it where appropriate, and understanding that a strong, vibrant web of connections ultimately benefits everyone involved, making the entire ecosystem of their lives more resilient and fulfilling. Open spirit. A seventh dynamic, the natural openness and receptive quality often inherent in the feminine spirit, can sometimes be misinterpreted, particularly if it encounters insincerity or manipulation. This open spirit is a willingness to trust, to connect, to receive, and to believe in the good intentions of others. It is a quality that fosters vulnerability, intimacy, and a deep capacity for love and joy. It is the fertile ground from which new ideas, inspirations, and deep emotional bonds can spring forth. This innate openness is a beautiful and essential aspect of a healthy, flowing, energetic system. However, this very openness, if not met with integrity and respect by a man, can be perceived or even exploited as a weakness, such as being gullible, naive, or vulnerable to flattery. A man with less than honorable intentions might see this open spirit as an opportunity for manipulation, using insincere charm or false promises to gain his own ends. Even a well-intentioned man, if he is not fully aware of the depth of this openness, might inadvertently cause pain through careless words or inconsistent actions that breach the trust she so readily offers. The hard truth is that the weakness is not in her open spirit, but in the potential lack of integrity or awareness in the man who encounters it. The responsibility lies with him to meet this openness with utmost respect, honesty, and unwavering sincerity. The man of true character recognizes the sacredness of this offered trust. He understands that her willingness to be open and vulnerable is a precious gift, not a flaw to be exploited. He strives to be worthy of that trust by being consistently authentic, reliable, and transparent in his own words and actions. He avoids all forms of manipulation, however subtle, and refrains from using flattery as a tool, offering instead genuine appreciation that comes from a sincere heart. The weakness is truly exposed when a man consciously deceives her open spirit, or when he carelessly betrays her trust through inconsistency or emotional dishonesty, thereby wounding her capacity for openness in the future. True masculine strength is demonstrated by a man's unwavering commitment to integrity when faced with such an open heart, by his dedication to being a safe and trustworthy presence, and by his honoring of her vulnerability as a sacred space. It is his conscious choice to protect rather than exploit this beautiful quality that reveals his own depth of character. Guardian instinct. An eighth energetic tendency, often deeply embedded within the feminine, is a powerful guardian instinct, a profound concern for the well-being, safety, and harmony of her loved ones and her environment. This can manifest as a heightened awareness of potential dangers, a deep desire to nurture and protect, and a tendency to think ahead, anticipating needs and planning for contingencies. This instinct is a vital force for care, stability, and the flourishing of life. It is the energy that ensures the nest is safe, that the young are cared for, that the community holds together. However, this powerful protective energy, if not understood or if met with dismissal by a man, can sometimes be mislabeled as worrying too much, anxiety, or being controlling. He might perceive her expressions of concern as unfounded fears or as attempts to restrict his freedom, failing to recognize the deep well of love and care from which they often spring. The hard truth is that the perceived weakness here is often a reflection of a man's potential lack of appreciation for the depth of her caring, his possible desire to avoid confronting uncomfortable realities, or his own resistance to what he perceives as emotional demands. Her worry is frequently a call for reassurance, for a sense of shared responsibility, or for him to demonstrate his own capacity as a protector and provider of stability. The man who understands and honors this guardian instinct does not dismiss her concerns, but listens to them with respect, even if he sees the situation differently. He offers reassurance, collaborates on solutions, and demonstrates through his actions that he too is committed to the safety and well-being of their shared world. He learns to see her expressions of concern not as a criticism of him, but as an expression of her deep investment and love. The weakness is accentuated when a man trivializes her fears, refuses to engage with her concerns, or acts in ways that genuinely exacerbate her anxieties, thereby making her feel unheard, unsupported, and solely responsible for the emotional labor of guardianship. True masculine presence involves acknowledging the validity of her caring, shouldering his share of the responsibility for creating safety and stability, and partnering with her to navigate challenges, thereby transforming potential anxiety into a shared sense of empowered vigilance and mutual care. Flowing current. A ninth dynamic, often perplexing to the more fixed or rigidly structured masculine energy, is the inherent flowing current of feminine energy, its capacity for adaptability, intuitive shifts, and a more fluid approach to plans and perspectives. Feminine energy is often like water, able to change course, to adapt to new information, both seen and unseen, and to follow intuitive nudges that may not always be immediately logical or explainable. This fluidity allows for great creativity, resilience in the face of change, and an ability to navigate complex situations with grace and intuition. It is the energy that can sense when a plan is no longer aligned or when a new direction is emerging, even before the rational mind has caught up. However, to a man who may place a high value on unwavering commitment to a predetermined plan, on absolute consistency, or on purely logical decision-making, this flowing current can be misinterpreted as a weakness, such as changing her mind too often, being unreliable, or lacking conviction. He may become frustrated by what he perceives as a lack of steadfastness, failing to see the deeper wisdom or responsiveness at play. The hard truth is that the perceived weakness often stems from a man's rigidity, his resistance to change, or his discomfort with ambiguity and the unknown. Her shifts may not be arbitrary, but rather sensitive responses to energetic information that he is not perceiving. The man who learns to trust and flow with this feminine current, rather than constantly resisting it or demanding rigid adherence to his own structures, discovers a powerful ally in navigating the complexities of life. He learns that her intuitive shifts often lead to better outcomes, that her adaptability can save them from persisting in a direction that is no longer fruitful. He understands that true strength includes flexibility and responsiveness, not just unyielding adherence to a plan. The weakness is highlighted when a man tries to force her into his rigid boxes, when he punishes or ridicules her for changing her mind, or when he dismisses her intuitive guidance without due consideration, thereby stifling her natural wisdom and creating unnecessary conflict. True masculine strength involves being open to this flow, cultivating his own capacity for adaptability, and learning to dance with the changing rhythms of life alongside her, trusting that together they can navigate any current. Rooted sanctuary. Finally, a 10th profound energetic inclination, often deeply felt within the feminine, is the desire for and the innate capacity to create a rooted sanctuary, a stable, nurturing, and harmonious environment, both internally and externally, from which life can flourish. This is not merely a desire for material security, but a deeper longing for emotional safety, energetic stability, and a sense of grounded belonging that allows her creative and nurturing energies to flow freely. When a woman feels securely rooted, when her environment feels like a safe and supportive sanctuary, she is empowered to bring forth her greatest gifts, to nurture her relationships, and to radiate her warmth and light into the world. This drive to create sanctuary is a profound force for healing, growth, and the cultivation of beauty in all its forms. However, if a man fails to understand or contribute to the creation and maintenance of this sacred space, if his actions or energy consistently create instability, chaos, or emotional insecurity, her deep need for this rooted sanctuary can be misinterpreted as a weakness, perhaps as being overly demanding, as being too focused on the home, or as being resistant to adventure or change if it threatens her sense of security. The hard truth is that the weakness perceived here often reflects a man's potential unwillingness to co-create this stable foundation, his possible fear of deep commitment, or his own chaotic inner state which he projects onto the external environment. Her desire for a sanctuary is not a demand to be coddled, but an invitation for him to partner with her in building a shared life that feels safe, supportive, and nourishing for both their spirits. The man who understands and honors this deep feminine need actively participates in creating and protecting this rooted sanctuary. He contributes his own stability, his reliability, his emotional presence, and his commitment to fostering an atmosphere of peace and mutual respect. He understands that when she feels securely rooted, her capacity to love, to nurture, and to create expands exponentially, enriching his life and their shared world immeasurably. The weakness becomes starkly evident when a man consistently undermines this sense of sanctuary through emotional volatility, unreliability, disrespect, or a refusal to invest in the emotional and energetic foundations of their shared life, thereby leaving her feeling perpetually ungrounded and insecure. True masculine strength is revealed in a man's unwavering commitment to being a pillar of stability, a co-creator of harmony, and a faithful guardian of the sacred space they build together. Recognizing that from such a rooted sanctuary, all good things can grow.